Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's debate. I am Phyllis Ellis, president of the NAACP Brockton Area Branch, a civil rights organization. Our branch is pleased to host the candidates running to be the next mayor of Brockton, Moses Rodriguez and Jean Bradley Durancourt. For disclosure, the NAACP Brockton Area Branch is nonpartisan. We do not endorse candidates. We do, however, wish them luck.
And good evening. I'm Rasan Hall, President and CEO of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts and a proud member of the NAACP Brockton Area Branch. I'm honored to serve as one of your moderators tonight. We're grateful that you've joined us for this important debate as the residents of Brockton consider who will lead our city forward.
The style of the debate tonight is the Lincoln-Douglas debate, the one-on-one format. Debates are important because they can help clarify, challenge assumptions, and can lead to a better understanding of the candidate's stance on issues. The responses will be timed, so please adhere to the time. The candidates did not receive the questions beforehand. So let's get started with an opening statement from Jean Bradley Durancourt. You have 2 minutes, Jean.
Well, thank you to the NAACP for putting this together, and of course for taking your time to be here. And those of you who are in the audience, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Jean Bradley Durancourt, or the guy with the long last name. It is an honor for me to be here. This election is not about a particular group of people. This election is about us, the city of Brockton. Now the question is, what do I mean by this? Well, if you take a look at the city of Brockton, you will see every race, every creed, every ethnicity. In my view, that's a strength, not a weakness. And as a kid, when I first moved in this community, it was one of the best things for me to be part of, by virtue of getting access to what we have and being able to take advantage of it. Going to the Brockton Public Library to learn English, working at Chris's restaurant as a boss boy, serving you, not just as a politician, but also as a restaurant worker. From there, went to Massachusetts Community College, graduated with honor, and moved on to Suffolk University, graduated with distinction. The reason I'm saying this is because the city of Brockton is strongly powerful. We have a lot of talented people here with limitless possibility to do amazing things. As I'm sitting here tonight, it's a reminder of who we are as a community, what we stand for, and where we want to go. The question is, do we want to stay here, or do we want to move forward? In this election, it is my responsibility and obligation to tell you that I am in this for all of us by investing in quality education, quality of life, enforcing traffic, making sure that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, as long as you live in our community, the government should represent you. Part of the way of doing this is to end the corruption, to end the nepotism. I am the only person in this race who can honestly saying that I'm not just talking about it, but I'm living it. I am pouring more than $40,000 into this race because I believe in it. And I hope November 4th, I can count on your vote. If you forget everything that I just said, remember, I am the guy with the longest last name on the ballot. Thank you.
Moses Rodriguez.
Well, good evening. I want to thank, first of all, the members of the NAACP, Phyllis, Rasan. Thank you for being here, and the folks that are watching us both at home and here in the audience. My story is the immigrant story. I owe everything to the city of Brockton. This is where I immigrated when I was 16 years old, along with my parents from Cape Verde in Angola, and established myself here in the city of Brockton. I went on to graduate from Brockton High School. I went on to college, served 6 years in the United States Navy, and went on to have a beautiful family with 3 children and now 2 young grandchildren. I have managed numerous businesses in the community. I was one of the youngest individuals to ever operate a retail store with hundreds of employees and millions of dollars to deal with. But we're here tonight to basically conduct my final interview as the candidate for mayor here in the city of Brockton. I began this interviewing process back in January when we announced that we were running for office for the position of mayor, to be able to handle the budget of this city, which is at $614 million, and to be able to supervise nearly 5,000 employees. And I'm here to continue that job interview. I said it the other day that my opponent has been running for mayor for the last 8 years, and I have been governing for almost 12 years now. First as a city council president, as members of the city council, serving on various boards and commissions within the city council, and also as a mayor for 7 months when Mayor Carpenter passed away. So the question for this job interview should be, what budgetary or supervisory experience do either one of us have to be able to become mayor of this great city? The question that we should answer is exactly that. Who is the most qualified? Who has the resume to be able to guide this city moving forward? Who has the qualities that it takes to become the CEO of the 5th largest community in Massachusetts? Wishful thinking and promises aren't going to be able to do it. My history and credibility speaks for itself. My word is bond. And with that, I'm open for your questions and here tonight.
Thank you very much. Well, I always believe in addressing the elephant in the room, so here we go. Temperament. The last 3 weeks of this campaign have been filled with tension and acrimony. Many residents are asking a simple question. Can't we all just get along? Okay. Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes, ma'am.
you declined a previous debate, citing that Councilor DeVrenicourt had threatened Brockton police officer working at the polls and that a harassment prevention order was sought against him. Given that the court ultimately denied that order, why should voters still consider this episode relevant when evaluating fitness for office? And more broadly, what standard of conduct should all candidates uphold when interacting with election officials and poll workers? You have 2 minutes to respond to that.
Well, first and foremost, let's make sure that one thing is very clear. I did not skip the debate because of the letter that we put out. The reason why I was not at that debate is because I had made a commitment to be present at the forum of senior citizens. In the meantime, on that evening, we put out that statement because one of our supporters was intimidated with 5 distinctive phone calls, messages left on the individual's phone. And I felt, as a Brocktonian, as someone who served in the United States military, that it was my duty and obligation to stick up for someone who came to me saying that he was harassed by the candidate who is actually seeking that office. I will stand with the police every day. I will stand for Brocktonians every day, and I'll continue to stand for Brocktonians and my friends on a daily basis. And I'll continue to do that. Now, the question is, why did the counselor skip the forum that I was in with the senior citizens? There were a forum that we were both invited back in September for the 21st of October. So on the 21st of October, we showed up at the same place, but there were 2 other locations that we were supposed to go to. And those 2 locations, I went there alone, but I didn't stand up there and basically acted like I was debating an empty chair. I basically conducted myself with the seniors that were in the room because that's what civil individuals do in the presence of other people. And that's what I'll continue to do as I move forward.
Thank you. Hassan?
A response?
Do you want to
Yeah,
respond?
absolutely. I mean, let me just say this to you now. Well, obviously,
1 minute.
in regard to your own statement, and I made a promise to my mother, my father, and my team that I will not make this personal, and I will not go after your family because I wasn't raised like this. In regard to your own statement, and those of you who have access to that, you stated that the reason why you did not come to this debate was because there was an application for a harassment order. These are your language. Did you read it before you put it out?
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, there we go. So if you read it, what you just said is not true. Yes, I was there at Bel-Air High Rise with you. And I could not go to the next one because there was a debate, which I went into it. You said online, on the record, you could not be next to me in a room because of that. And you just said here, on the record, this was not the reason. Let me just say this to you. We'll leave it there. My paramount goal in this selection is to fight for Brockton, not you and I. I will not make this personal, and I will leave it from there. What I will do, I will continue fighting for the city of Brockton. For me, I think it's somewhat disrespectful to accuse me, which you stated that was denied by a judge without even me knowing. And you knew this was denied on the 20th, and you published that
Okay,
statement
Gene.
on the 21st.
Okay.
I'll leave it there.
You want a last statement on that?
Well, my whole thing is, it doesn't matter what the judge approved or disapproved. When somebody comes to me and says, I was disrespected, I was threatened, I, as a supporter of that individual, my job is to put on a statement saying, if this continues in the future, you and I were standing side by side at Bel Air. If this continues in the future, you do not deserve to be standing next to me on a debate. That's what was stated.
But I'll tell you this, why did you
No,
delete
Gene,
this
no.
statement?
Gene, stop. We're done. He has the last word on that. Okay, we're gonna go.
So, next question. Councilor Derencourt, as we've discussed, the judge denied the harassment prevention order against you, but was, as mentioned there, it was accompanied by filings of 5 voicemails translated from Haitian Creole. And so, without relitigating the translations of what was said, what, if anything, do you want to say to the residents of Brockton about your conduct? What is your message to the voters, or what, if anything, do you want to say about your communication with that office?
Excellent, and I'll tell you. So in regard to this
2
particular incident, this particular police officer, in regard, you said it, a member of your team, was
No,
at
I said a
the,
supporter, not a member of the team. Supporter, so.
in regard to your statement, based on what you just stated, that a member of your team was at the Brookfield School in Ward 6, in uniform, telling people not to vote for me as a police officer. And not even me, the conversation was, as you understand that, it is a violation of state and federal law. You cannot tell somebody at a polling location who to vote for. And this was the message. And I said, if you do this again, I will call the chief and report you. And with that being said, I don't even think you understand what was said. And on the record right now, that's what I told him. And I said, in America, we have a democratic system where no one, including you and I, should convince anybody at a polling location to go and vote for either one of you. And I said, if you do this again, I will report you. And that's what I did. I always stand on this side of the law to justify my point. As we speak, I'm the only person here tonight who can say that I'm serving in law enforcement as a correctional officer. And I know what it means to take an oath, not just to talk about it, but to live up to it. I have never been suspended for anything. You have. You were suspended in 2017 for the same reason. The difference is that my life is open, and I have an open record. I will not make this personal. Tonight, I want to talk about what we want to do for Brockton, as opposed to what we can talk about between you and I. The story is over. It was denied by a judge. It goes to show that there's nothing wrong with me. And you know, and I know, what you did was intentional, to give people a different perception about me as a young man. And at the end of the day, as we speak, we never responded to you. And I promised that I wouldn't do it. And I will leave it there.
Thank you. You want to respond?
Yeah, you do.
1 minute.
1 minute? Well, Gene, there are many people who were friends with me in the past that have decided to support you. I have not picked up the phone once to make a phone call to them or leave them one message. You left 5 messages to this young man. 5. Not 1, but 5 messages. What I'm saying to you, we will leave it at that because we don't want to make this personal, but I did not call a single person that has posted things against me on Facebook, or that I actually have called my friends and said something, because you know what? That's not what we do. Our job is to basically, you want to support me? Great. You don't want to support me? That's great as well. As a matter of fact, there's some people that can actually attest to the fact that I did say that to them. Somebody texted me and said, I'm going to support Gene, and you know what I said? I hope that we continue to be friends beyond this. That was it. No phone calls, no harassments, no repeating calls. That was the end of it. So that's what I would wish that you would do, and basically say, assume the fact that we all make mistakes and leave it at that.
Time. So, 30 seconds.
I mean,
Last
the
word.
difference between you and I, Moses, is that you have a history of not telling the truth.
Oh, yes.
And I have a history of being right. You have a history of making stories up to the point. I said it right now on the record. In 2007, you were suspended by your boss for actually going after a member of the LGBTQ community. As a young kid myself, I have never been suspended at any job. I have never been reprimanded, and I have never been spoken to. And as you know, I have a lot of jobs, not just here in the city, but throughout the state. So with that being said, I want to leave it there.
And
The
we
stories end, the judge denied what you intended on doing.
And so moving on, putting a nice bow on this, and this is a question to both of you, and you will each have 90 seconds to respond. How will you, as mayor, set a tone of civility and cooperation in Brockton's government, and what specific steps will you take to bring people together after what some may say is a very divisive race? So, Councilor Rodriguez, you first.
Listen, you look at my
And you have 90 seconds, I'm sorry.
You look at my campaign, we have individuals from all across of this community, because I have been a uniter since the days that you go back to the, Stephen Bernards of the world, and long before what's sitting in front of us in terms of the NAACP, we've been fighting for the right cause in this city. Sometimes people don't realize that Brockton of today is not the Brockton of the 90s and the 80s when I first got here. There was some serious struggles that went on. There were some real issues that took place in the city that some of us had to stand up and unify as one solid group. We have been sued as a community by the powers to be because of sticking up for individuals that had absolutely nothing to do with that. So if you look at my campaign has been a unifying campaign. From the support that we have gotten from the various entities in this community, from the various unions in this community, from the various individuals in the community, many from your community and my community as well, because that is what we need to do to move this city forward. We need to start unifying, working for the same purpose, working for the same reason to move our city forward as one. Because if we continue to divide, we continue to create blocks and walls, we're not going to go anywhere.
And I'll tell you this, I mean, this is a very good question. In my view, based on how I was raised, if you take a look at every single person, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe in. There is something good in you that anybody can access. But in regard to the government, it should be a different approach. We have a communication problem in our city, whereby the government does not communicate with each other. Certain people believe that once I get my job, that's the end of it. As the next mayor, and I said it on day one, what I will do, I will call every single head department to have a meeting with them to let them know who we are as a community, what we stand for, and where we want to go, and what their job is. You know why? Because as the mayor, you are in charge of the day-to-day activity. And it is your responsibility to understand that people need to know their roles in the government. So what I will do is to tell everyone, if you are in charge of this department, you work for the city of Brockton. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about what we can do for our community. I do not have one community. My community is the city of Brockton, and I will fight for this. My commitment is not to certain group of people. My commitment is to the entire city of Brockton. That's what I've done, and that's what I will be doing. I work for Senator Brady in the Senate. When I get a call, I don't ask who are you or where you calling me from. I talk to anybody. When I work in the House for Mike, it was the same thing. As a special investigator for the State Auditor's Office, when I got a call in regard to a situation, I pick up the phone, not based on your last name or where the call was coming from, but I was doing my job. And that's what we have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along.
I started, so I think I got 30 seconds, right?
Not on that question. That
Oh,
was
no,
the
no
last
question. Okay.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
you have had years in city government. including a term as acting mayor. Homeowners are struggling with rising property taxes and housing costs. Why hasn't Brockton done more to expand affordable housing while protecting current homeowners from tax pressure? 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, we need to understand how the taxation really works. We in city government are not responsible for income tax. We're responsible for property taxes. Property taxes in the city are governed by Proposition 2.5. So Proposition 2.5 basically takes care of the small increases that are called adjustments that take place for the cost of living adjustments that actually take place. So when we hear people say, I'm not going to increase your taxes, the president increased the federal income tax, the governor increases state taxes, the city only manages within the 2.5 the property taxes that get increased. But the problem that I see within taxation in the city is that we rely too heavily on the residents of the city. If you look at it, the taxes between resident and commercial taxes in the community, residents are responsible for about 72% of the taxes, the overall tax in the city, whereas the commercial properties are responsible for 20-somewhat%. So that we cannot continue to do that, because what happens, the load is heavily on the residential side. That's why we have a plan in place to basically expand the commercial tax base, not to increase commercial taxes, to expand the commercial tax base in this community so that we can lower that threshold from the 72%, 73% downward to about 60, 50, close to 50 in the sense, and bring up the commercial, thus taking the pressures off the taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. I've been a taxpayer when I was Gene's age. When I got married, by 35, I was married, had a home, had 3 kids, were paying taxes, paying a water bill. So I know what it's like. I know what the headaches are paying taxes. My property taxes where I live now started out at $3,000. It's now up to $9,000. So I know the headaches and the issues that are actually coming along. Well, we got to build up our commercial tax base to take the pressures off the air.
Thanks.
Yeah, but I think what we need to focus on, obviously, this was a simple question. It's what I call smart investment and changing the perception about Brockton. Because obviously, what time is it? Probably 6 o'clock. Downtown Brockton is dead. And the question is, as somebody who's been in government for 25 years, why? It's because nobody wants to come downtown Brockton to do business, because it's not an environment where people feel comfortable. Most recently, the beer company that we had down there, I was the last person who had an event there. So what I will do if I become the next mayor of Brockton in regard to bringing business in our community is to capitalize on our state and federal fund, bringing business down here and give them an opportunity to survive. What I mean by this is to encourage people not just to invest, but working in collaboration with law enforcement and the education system to give people an opportunity to understand that Brockton is open. What do I mean by this? There are 2 things that are very important for a business person or anybody to move into a community. Number 1 is education. Now the question is, if someone is moving into your community and they are thinking about having a family, they look at education. Can they trust our educational system? If the answer is yes, that's a plus. Number 2, is it safe enough for me to buy a house, to raise my family, and to build a foundation? If those 2 are good, you don't have to worry about convincing people to move on. As of right now, as we speak, we know that public safety is an issue. It's going to be very tough to convince somebody to move to downtown Brockton and put millions of dollars to do that. And that's one of the reasons we come up with a plan called community policing, whereby the community and law enforcement will work together to change the perception about Brockton, especially downtown Brockton, whereby people will feel safe and comfortable to move in. And that will generate money, not just as a business people, but also taxes for us to fund our stuff. That's what I'll do.
Thank you. But did you answer the last part of my question? Why hasn't Brockton done more to expand affordable housing while protecting current homeowners from tax pressure?
Well, Phyllis, the city is not in the business of building homes. That's something that the federal government does or the state government does. What the city can do is, while an investor wants to invest in this city, we can put some requirements in there to basically put in a percentage within the licensing that they get, how to basically create more affordable homes from individuals. But the city itself is not in the position to build homes for anyone. And I think we have to be clear about that. But I just wanted to touch base on something that the councilor said. Community policing is nothing new. It's been living in this community for years, years. Now, in the last 6 years, community policing has disappeared. But we've had community policing in the city, foot patrols, foot beats, motorcycles, bicycle. So community policing has been, even though you say I've been in government for 25 years, I've been in government for about 20 years. And for the last 20 years that I've been involved in this government, we've had community policing. It's something that we're very proud of, worked very well when we were having some real tough times in this community, and it's something that needs to come back. But it has existed, so we don't have to reinvent it.
I mean, you just,
Okay, that's it for that question? Okay. He had the last word. G,
yes.
you are now serving your second term as councilor at large. Please tell us specifically what accomplishments you have achieved around affordability, whether housing, taxes, or the cost of living during your time on the city council.
And I'll tell you, number one, I have a record of voting against every single tax proposal on the council. And I have a record of always fighting for education, to the point most recently, I challenged the mayor and my colleagues on the council to put $500,000 into the library. And I'm one of the biggest supporters when it's come down to fund for Brockton Public School, and of course, public safety. So with that being said, as a kid who was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to go to the Brockton Public Library, where I serve as a trustee, I understand what it means for a kid who is homeless and not having access to a laptop. For a kid who's at Massachusetts Community College and not have access to buy books, whereby they can actually go to the Brockton Public Library and access that. So I fought the mayor and able to get $500,000 in the history of the library to fund it. And that's one of the reasons why, as we speak, you will see the West Branch and the East Branch is still open. And we also increase hours on the main branch. As I was fighting for that, my opponent was apologizing to the mayor. As I was challenging them, my opponent told the mayor that we're sorry we could not hold the money. So with that being said, I have a track record in what I've done. And also, not just about fighting for the library, for our community, for our homeless population, and demand justice, not criminalization. So at the end of the day, I have been sending every single day to fight for all of us. In regard to our community housing, what I said is that in order for somebody to move in our community, we have to change the perception about Brockton. And we, as Brocktonian, we gotta be able to speak positively about the city of Brockton. And I said that over and over again. I don't wanna be just a mayor. I wanna be a face, a voice, an ambassador for the city of Brockton.
Thank you.
That's what I've done.
Moses?
Well, let me answer your question. One of the proudest laws that I partaked and put forward in this city is the marijuana law. And I'll clarify that. The marijuana law was basically put upon us by the voters of the city or the state, legalizing marijuana in this community. But I insisted that we should have a law that benefits the city of Brockton, when many were anti that law because it was taking too long, we were kind of dragging our feet, and there was very, they wanted to push it through like some of the other communities have done. And I'll tell you one thing, that law today is in the books and it's being copied by other communities because of the way we put it in, where not one individual is responsible for the licensing of that particular issue. Because I, coming from this community, know exactly what some of these issues are. And we have some clear examples of what took place in places like Fall River, where the mayor went to jail because of the marijuana issue, and some of these other communities because it was left for one individual to decide. And in our city, it's something that's decided by the entire council, not the thing. The councilor said that he has voted against every tax increase. Again, let me clarify this. We do not vote for tax increases. What we do, we set the tax rates for the city. And when you vote against the budget, which you have done, you do that. And I'm going to give you credit for voting against the budget. When you vote against the budget, you're voting against the budget for the schools, the budget for the police, the budget for the fire, because you want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I, on the other hand, support every single budget because I don't take one issue as one issue for the city. I take it overall what the issues are. Just because you wanted to save, by the way, you didn't save the library. What you saved is the cuts to the library. Let's make sure the libraries weren't closing. You saved the cut proposed by the mayor to the library.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark.
Well, I'll tell you what you may not know. With all due
I do know a
respect.
lot.
I serve on the board of trustee of the library. I'm not just saying it. I lived it. And what I said, I saved $500,000 for the library. Mm-hmm. And the reason I did so is because I knew the value of having a library in a community, which is the face of any society. So with that being said, we did save the library because based on what you read and what I read, if we did not come up with that money, the West Branch and the East Branch were going to be closed. And the main branch, they were going to cut the hours. The reason why, you call me the library guy, which is fine, it's because I understand the importance of having access to resources. Because when I first moved in this community, like I said over and over again, I was fortunate to go there and learn English. And I also know that there are a lot of homeless kids in our community. The only place they can access knowledge is there. That's why I fought for it day in and day out.
Thank you.
And that's what I will continue to do.
Thank you, Gene.
Councilor Durencourt, Brockton residents already faced some of the highest water and sewer bills in the region. The city also maintains a costly contract with Aquaria desalination plant, which many believe contributes to the costs. Given that, do you support continuing the Aquaria contract, or would you renegotiate, suspend, or terminate it to relieve ratepayers? We'll have you respond 2 minutes, Councilor Rodriguez 2 minutes, and then you'll have the last word with 1 minute.
Absolutely. I am 100% against the city of Brockton buying this water plant, and I'll tell you why. Number one, we are under no law, no obligation whatsoever to buy this water plant. And number two, according to DEP, the city of Brockton does not have to do this. It is what they call a recommendations. And as we speak, and obviously we do have issues, not just in the city of Brockton, but the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. What I am not in favor is paying $58 million for a water plant which was signed by my opponent, dated January 2nd, 2020. Why am I saying all of this to you? So as somebody who was appointed by the city council to serve about 6 months, the first thing he did was negotiated a contract with Aquaria for $58 million. And the question is, how much are we paying for it now? And I said that over and over again, and my opponent stated that I had a problem with numbers. I gave this information to the enterprise, and my opponent's name is right here. I do not have a problem with numbers. I do have a ability to tell the truth. So now, why would we put $58 million into a system that is old and unreliable, and we haven't been able to even access the amount of water that we should get from that plant? So, as a resident myself, I'm uncomfortable to even talking about it, because why are we so adamant about buying a plant that we know cannot even give us the amount of water that we need as we speak? Because my opponent has a special interest in it. And that's one of the reasons why recently he flew to Miami for 24 hours to do what he called
Time. Councilor Rodriguez, 2 minutes.
It is true that I signed a contract to purchase that plant in 2019, 2020, before I left office, when I took over for the mayor. In 6 years since I left that office, We have given Aquaria $54 million with nothing to show for it. $9 million a year times 6 years, my math from Brockton High School is $54 million. And by the time this contract is all said and done, we would have given that Aquaria group $137 million of taxpayer money with nothing to show for. Counselor, I too have that letter from DP. And you know what that letter says? Yes, you're not in any obligation to have a second water source. But if you dare to want improvements in your community, or you dare to want expansion in your community, or commercial increases in your community, you better come up with a second water source. And we're not going to alleviate you from that responsibility. Meaning that we talk a nice little game about we want to grow our commercial tax base, we want to grow, we want to grow. If we do not have a second source of water, we will not be allowed to grow this city. This is why people are referring to this as a mandate. In order for us to grow and continue to grow as a city, we have to have a second water source. And we cannot get out of that contract, without them giving us the okay to do that. It's right here, and I can make this copy available to you for you to check it out.
I read all of it.
Hold on. It's my time, I believe. I flew to Miami. You know why? Because I have an interest in finding out where a taxpayer who continues to pay a water bill is sick and tired of giving Aquaria $137 million. So I went there on a fact-finding mission to try to figure out how this thing would work.
1 minute.
Excellent. So, and I'll tell you what you are not telling the resident, which is unfair. Now, I am 100% in favor of getting a second water options. I always say that. I'll tell you something that you may not know. Trout Brooks, that's an access. We'll talk about this after the debate, and I'll leave it there. What you are not telling people is that it's not just buying the plant, but it's taking care of the plant. Now, you are all happy about buying the split for $58 million. Do you know how much money it will cost to maintain that plant every year? And how many employees and all of that? My fear is that, as you know, if we buy this plant, the moment you signed the contract, we own it. And if anything happened to this plant, it's going to be on us. And for those of you who may not know anything about water, is that one mistake can cost the city of Brockton couple $1 million. And with that being said, we will go bankrupt, and I will not buy that plant. That's my fight in it.
Can I borrow 15 seconds of my other time?
We'll give you another question that is related, and you can fit it in there.
Yes.
And your response will be 2 minutes, then Councilor Derenoncourt will have 2 minutes, and then you will have the last word with 1 minute. And so the question is, you've said that Brockton should buy the Aquaria water plant, even though the city has paid more than $100 million under the contract and still owes roughly $30 million through 2028, if the math is correct, since you all are the math experts. With residents already struggling under some of the highest water bills in Massachusetts, why should taxpayers trust that owning Aquaria won't simply lock Brockton into decades of new debt and higher rates?
Counselor, one of the things that I think you brought up is the numbers. I'm actually pretty good at numbers because I went to college for electrical engineering, so you got to be good at numbers. When you buy, let's say we were able to negotiate this thing for a reasonable cost. You buy it, let's say, for $40 million. Like you're buying a home, you're not writing a check for $40 million. You're buying it, paying installments on a monthly basis of X, Y, and Z. For the next 3 years, we are going to shell out $9 million to Aquaria. That $9 million that's already allocated to Aquaria is more than sufficient to pay the note plus operating the plant. That's what I found out in Miami, because in Miami, the city of Miami owns that plant. And Aquaria is the operator and the maintainer of the plant. Now, speaking of a plant being 17 years old, because it's only 17 years old, but it's like when you buy a brand spanking new car and you put it in your garage and you run it from time to time just to run the engine. That's what that plant is. The experts in Miami actually told us that in reality that plant is like 5 years old. And when you go down there and you visibly see the plant and you see the piping that exists up there, You see that. But my issue is not because I want to buy a plant. I want to come up with a second water source for the city. MWRA is unattainable right now. In order for us to hook up to MWRA, we have to go to Blue Hills. And we have to get permits from Stoughton, from Canton, over 128 to get to Blue Hills. The brook that he's talking about is a little river called Trout Brook. It's a little river right down the street that would not even be able to feed this building, never mind the city of Brockton. This city of Brockton uses on a daily basis over 11 million gallons of water. 11 million gallons of water. Where are we going to get enough water to be able to expand what we need to expand beyond this without having a realistic water source?
And I'll tell you this, I mean, you know, as you know, it's been so long since we've been paying for this. I understand that. But even after you left that office, and you said it on the record, you left a letter for the current mayor to buy that plant. He refused to do so. And it's been about 6 years since that letter was left. And as we speak, because of the people involving in your campaign with their interest in regard to investment, you want to buy that plant. The question is, do you know who owns this plant? What are the names? What are the people that are putting money into this company? You do not know. And with that being said, why don't you show us the information that you have in regard to the plant instead of trying to convince the taxpayer to take that hit when you know even our bond rating is a AA-. Now, it's not just buying the plant. Even borrowing money is very hard because at the end of the day, our bond rating is so bad, and that's one of the reasons it doesn't matter what we are buying. We are paying so much interest in the money we are borrowing. I am not in a position, and I will not be in a position, to keep on putting taxes on our residents and challenging our community to pay the bill. What I will do, I will be fiscally responsible and watch every penny at every time and making sure that we are not putting the burden on our children. Because at the end of the day, you know who's going to pay the bill? Our kids. They will be responsible to carry on. And as long as I'm in office, I will always fight for the taxpayer, not the special interest.
One minute, last word.
Well, my dear friend, special interest here does not exist. But I think you need to get a little more education on numbers again. When it comes to bond ratings are like college. A's are good, B's are better. I mean, B's are less good, C's are D's are bad, and so on and so forth. Bond ratings, the best bond rating is the AAA bond rating.
I said that.
Listen, hold on.
Don't interrupt.
The next one is the AA's. AA plus, AA without any number, any plus or minus. AA minus is better than A plus. So even though you said it, this is the second, I wasn't going to touch this, but since you brought it up, you said that our bond rating is AA negative. See, sometimes you don't pay attention to what goes on in the council.
10 seconds.
The CFO told us point blank the day that he brought up the whole thing about Aquaria that our bond rating is AA plus. So AA plus is slightly better than AA minus. So AA's are good. You just need to know that.
So this is the last question on this. You both have 90 seconds to respond, just once response each. Councilors, and we'll start with you, Councilor Derenicourt. 90 seconds. Can either of you point to any independent financial analysis that supports your position?
Hey, absolutely. In regard to my
90
team.
seconds.
Yes, absolutely. In regard to my team and also the Moody Group, what we take a look at in regard to the investment that we've been doing in our city. And that's a difference between you and I. You will come up with numbers that don't exist. We actually take a look at the numbers. What we find out in 2024, the city of Brockton was, as you know, in trouble financially. And we are still in trouble. And you stated the CFO. It is so ironic because it was you, the CFO, and the commissioner of DPW that went to Miami to do that analysis. That's your friend. Of course you went to Miami with him. So in regard to our study, we find out that when it's come down to investment, one of the reasons why we are paying so much in interest is because our bond rating is bad. And I'm not just talking about it. I mean, with all due respect, my credit score is 821. So with that being said, I know what it means to have a good credit score. And I know what it means having a good credit score can do. So when you have a good credit score, you have a lower interest. When you have a bad credit score, you have a higher interest. So the reason why we are paying so much interest in regard to the money we are borrowing, it's because our credit score is bad. Everybody knows we had a deficit, about $19 million. We had to come up with the money to pay for it. I'm not just saying it. You know it is true. Let's admit it.
Counselor. 90 seconds.
You have issues with numbers again. How many times do I have to tell you this? The deficit was $18 million. It's not $19 million. It's $18 million. Our bond rating has to do when we go borrow. Once you borrow, this isn't an adjustable rate. It doesn't go up or down. You borrow the money, it stays borrowed for what you borrowed it for. It's like you buy a house. If you had owned a house.
I do, 15 Midland Street.
Oh,
my house.
Thank God, you know. You would know that you actually have an interest that it's either an adjustable rate or a fixed rate. Our bond rating right now in 2025 is AA plus, 2025. So if you see it on the contrary, you know, perhaps, again, the CFO said it at the council meeting that you were there. So if you had something contrary to that, why didn't you bring it up at the meeting that both of us were at?
No, that was the last word on that.
Okay. We're going to move on to education.
Love that.
Mr. Rodriguez. How
Brockton
can the
High.
city support Brockton Public Schools' financial recovery while ensuring classroom stability? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am. We have the differential in powers within our city. Our school system are run by elected individuals called, school committee members. They're the ones who set policy, and they're the ones who guide the school system. Thus far, even though I keep hearing that I've been in city government for 100 years, thus far, the city council's job is to approve the school budget, hand it over to the school committee for the school committee to manage and then set policies moving forward. Now, as mayor, you're the chair of the school committee, but you're not the owner of the school committees. This is why sometimes I think people forget Brockton is a Plan B city form of government where the council, in some instances, have more authority than the mayor. The council has more authority than the mayor. I said it twice. Because we tend to say, I'm going to go in and do this, I'm going to go in and do this, I'm going to go in and do this. The first thing we need to do is establish a working relationship with our counterparts that decide exactly what we do. A mayor can propose, the council has to approve. A mayor can ask, the council has to approve. And it's the same thing applies within the school committee. You can't go in there as a dictator and you're going to run this thing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You can suggest things, but the body that was actually elected by the voters of the city has to do their part to basically control what is all about education. We are lobbyists in some way, where we lobby these individuals to do the right thing, but it's up to the voters to put in individuals within the school committee that will be able to run the schools as it runs. We have a superintendent that is selected by the school committee. They vote on the school committee as far as who hires, who doesn't hire them. It's not the mayor, it's not the city's council, it's the school committee that selects the superintendent, and they run the school in conjunction with the rest of city government.
Thank you. Jean Bradley.
I mean, I think what we have to do, we have to hold people accountable for spending our money, accountable for their actions, and accountable for our students. So in my view, education is not just about what happened in the classroom. Education is also what happened at home and in our community. We have a solemn obligation not just to talk about education, but also to value it. And that's one of the reasons why education is my #1 priority. And I'll tell you something that we may not even know. do we know that there is no library in our school system? None. The question is why? Can you imagine living in a society where Brockton Public School does not have library in our school? This is something that I will fix, because I believe that we should have a library in every single school, which will give our students access to knowledge and the ability to do research. What I will do, I will invest in innovation. I will invest in stuff that I think will carry on, to making sure that our kids are not just passing, but score so high so they become competitive nationwide by investing in music, by investing in arts and sports. That will keep them off the street, and that will help with public safety. Because if you take a look at what's going on in terms of violence, it's between 15 and 25. And the reason why, it's because we have nothing for our young people to do. And that's one of the reasons I encourage a youth council, whereby at City Hall, in the mayor's office, there will be a council of young people to educate me about what's going on in our community. So in regard to education, I will do everything that I could to put as much money as we can in making sure that every kid in every corner in this community receive the best education, but also adult education, especially at the adult center, whereby people can go and learn English as a second language. And that's what I'll do, and that's the difference between you and I.
Thank you. Moses?
Well, the interesting thing is I think Gene finally said something that actually made sense. He's going to create a youth advisory council, something that was created in 2007. And that actually, there's regulations in the books that tells you exactly what the formation of that youth advisory council is. So that was created back in 2007. But you know what? It's interesting how we're going to do this, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that. Again, this city is a Plan B city. I know you don't get this. You think that the mayor is the president of the old USSR. That's not what the mayor's function is. The mayor is the chief executive officer of a city that has a board of directors to answer to, which is the city council, which has another board of directors to work along with, which is the school committee, because it cannot be, I'm gonna go in there and put this in and put that there. You can suggest things, because as a mayor, although you're the chair of the school committee, there's still 7 members of the school committee. They can outvote any suggestion that you'll go make, as long as you don't establish those relationships, because you have to establish those relationships. You don't quite get that we cannot just walk in and pummel, these other individuals who are elected by the voters of this community. We need to understand that's what we do.
Thank you. Next question. What investments are needed to serve English learners and economically disadvantaged students better? Gene, you have
I just got the last one. I think that should go to him. I just answered the first one.
No, that was mine.
Gene, the question is to you.
Okay, so it's pretty simple, and I said it before. Number one, we gotta be able to bring revenue in our city. And how do we do this? Again, I said smart investment, by working in collaboration with private and public partnership. And I said that a lot. I know a lot of people that are millionaires and billionaires who may have a desire to give money. As we speak, especially for our English learners, we have a waiting list everywhere, whereby they would like to learn English, but unfortunately, the programs cannot take all of them because they don't either have enough space or enough people to teach them. What I will do, I will reach out to anybody who is willing to make an investment in our city. But again, we must change the perception and selling Brockton in a positive way. Because at the end of the day, if public safety is good, if our educational system is good, whereby parents do not have to remove their kids from our public school system and send them to private school, whatever money the state gives us will stay in our school. And that will somewhat help, not just to invest, but also invest in quality education. To go back to helping our adult learners or people who may not know how to speak English, we gotta be able to reach them at home and let them know, like somebody did for me when I first moved in this country, they can go certain places in our community to learn English and other stuff. We must be proactive, not reactive. And that's one of the reasons why we must come as a community to make that investment. And we got to some of the stuff that you stated earlier. The mayor is the only person, as you and I know, who allocate money. The city council does not have the power to allocate. We can only cut. So it is the mayor's job to determine where he puts money. And with that being said, I will make the decision accordingly, not just based on what I think, but with the advice of our community, whereby education will be my number one priority, and public safety my second, and so on.
Thank you, Gene. Moses.
Well, I think the question was the adult ed or just overall language
Serve,
learners?
invest in English learners and economically disadvantaged students better.
Well, because he basically took it to adult ed, and I'm going to go back to the school system, because that's what the question was. And I'm not going to give you the runaround, talking about, because he quotes the, like sometimes the insanity of doing things over and over again. But the insanity is saying things over and over and over again and hope for it to change. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Our school system, they do a great job. I'm a product of the bilingual program within our school system. My community is a product of bilingual program within the system. My entire city is a product. Brockton Public School System, its language program is second to none in the state. Now, can we get it better? Of course we can get it better. But our school system, the language capabilities of our teachers, the language capabilities of our supporting cast within the school system is second to none. Nothing bothers me more than, because we're trying to score some political points, to throw out the baby with the bathwater. People make it sound like this city is Kabul, Baghdad, Gaza, or some of these other communities that are out there suffering like you wouldn't see before, like you wouldn't notice. Our school system is second to none. Now, did we have some problems with mismanagement in the past? Of course we did. Did we have an $18 million deficit? Of course we did. But nobody built homes in Haiti or in Cape Verde with that money. At least I didn't see it, because we're both in the council. I didn't get a bag. So I'm wondering. You were, because you're still in it.
I was not there.
So the idea is that the school system is a great system, and we must continue to encourage that school system. As far as the adult stuff, I run the Cape Verdean Association, and we have English as a second language classes for our adults. We have over 80 people taking those classes, and we provide those as well. But let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to the school system, because they do a phenomenal job within that program.
Thank you. Gene, 1 minute.
I mean, I said it to you. I mean, the question was, how do we change the perception, and if not helping some of these English learners to move on? And I said it, Moses.
In the school,
obviously, yeah. Well, when we are talking about education, it's not just Brockton Public School. Education has something to do with anybody who's learning in our community, and I think that's a difference between you and I. Education is not just the Brockton Public School system. The Adult Learning Center is part of the public school in our city because it's part of the educational system. The library is also part of that system because you know why? It gives access to knowledge. What I'm saying to you is that I didn't go to the Adult Learning Center. I went to the Brockton Public Library because there was a program by somebody who believed that people like myself can go there and learn. And that's what I did. And unfortunately, as we speak, that program does not exist, and I would like to bring it back. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you,
not
Jim.
some.
Thank you.
Hassan. Approximately 19 to 21% of students in Brockton Public Schools are identified as students with disabilities, which is higher than the Massachusetts state average of 18%. How should the mayor's office collaborate with the school committee to secure full state reimbursement for high-cost special education placements? Councilor Rodriguez, 2 minutes, then Councilor Derencourt, 2 minutes, and then you close with 1.
Well, the issue that we have with special ed in our community is not necessarily with placement, but is with transportation of those students. So when you look at the fact that our system continues to get, we've had some cuts in the past, which we lost some the ability to have some of those classes within our school system. So in reality, we have to transport these kids out of the system. So when we talk about the deficit in the school budget, the deficit was mostly because of transportation, and most specifically special ed transportation, because those are more finite types of transportation. It's not the yellow buses that you see out there that actually cause a great deal of the deficit within the system, is with the special ed. So we have to kind of work on putting our minds together, and I'm glad that the new superintendent and the members of the school committee are looking into bringing some of those services back into the district, so we can do a lot of the in-house within the district, and thus cutting back on what is taking away from the school system, which is the transportation of these students. Some of these students are transported into Pembroke, Marshfield, and places like that. So it becomes very costly when you're transporting students across outside of the district that could be kept in-house. But in the meantime, we have to have the specialty of the special trained individuals to help us with those students. And this is something that we're currently working on within our school system to bring most of those services back in-house.
Councilor Duran-Court?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, so when I got back on the council, and obviously this was after the deficit, one of the first things I look at was, why are we in so much trouble? And I took a look at the transportation departments, whereby the person at that time, and I'm glad, you said it, as we speak, we have a director of transportation and a assistant director of transportation because of my recommendation, because I said, and you can go back and review, and I said the person in charge of the transportation department was not qualified, because we had somebody who were doing her job based on who she knows, not what should be done. And I challenged that person doing a budget hearing, and now this person is gone. And you said it, that problem is not all done, but for whatever reason at this point, we can say that they are heading into a positive direction. That's what I mean by accountability. We gotta be able to hold anybody who has a government job accountable. We're not gonna hire you because we know you. We're gonna hire you because of what you can do. Because when you put somebody in a position because of knowing them, that's what happened. And with that being said, not just the person, whomever was in charge, cost the city almost $19 million in regard to transportation, and of course the money that we receive from the state. Our school receives about 81% state funding. We must be able to take a look at how we are spending this money, and who's spending this money, and where we are spending this money. We must be fiscally responsible and understand that every penny is important, because at the end of the day, if you are spending money that you don't have, you will face consequences. And if I'm lucky enough to become your next mayor, we will watch every penny. The same way that I challenge the transportation director will be the same way I challenge everybody or anyone who has a city job.
1 minute to close.
Well, there's two types of spending that the schools use. Net school spending, which we get some money from the state to do, and then non-net school spending. 100 of non-net school spending comes from, guess who? The taxpayers of Brockton. And guess who pays for transportation, all of transportation to transport the students of Brockton? The taxpayers of Brockton. So we cannot rely on the state to help us with transportation, because they do not provide funding to transport students. So that comes off directly from the backs of every single taxpayer in this community, because that funding comes from the non-net side of spending. So let's make sure that we're clear about, no matter what we do with the state, beg the state for this, beg the state for that, the taxpayers of this community pay for those yellow buses and to transport every single child within the school system.
Okay. Next question. There have been several reports regarding strong disagreements on how to manage the Brockton Public Schools. Some of the disagreements have resulted in personal attacks. Councilor Duran-Court, how should the mayor's office collaborate with the school committee and superintendent to improve academic outcomes?
I think we need to understand that we are in the business of serving the people, not ourselves. We have to put special interests aside and focus on serving the people. And I said it over and over again. I don't believe that the mayor should be the chairman of the school committee. And I'll tell you why. Because you got a bunch of people who are elected and also a mayor who is elected. Focus on the day-to-day activity of the city. I think it would be in the interest of the school department to have somebody be there appointed in collaboration with the mayor and other people in our community to focus on that, or have all of them elected by themselves and focus on it. Because as somebody who will be able to provide the money, you do have a direct impact in terms of what's going on. You can have a meeting with them. I believe we have to have open communication, and we need to understand that our students deserve better treatment, and our students should not be part of politics. No one should use our school system as a political platform to capitalize on it. At the end of the day, we take this job because we believe in our community, because we want to do something positive. And I said it, and I said, I would be more than happy if the city ordinance and the charter allow me, if I become the next mayor of Brockton, not to be the chairman of the school committee. Because I think that will free my time and focus on other stuff for the city, as opposed to going to the Brockton Public School and challenge some of these people who may have different ideology. I do have a stake in the game because the mayor is the person who come up with the budget. And at the end of the day, I can sit down and meet with them and listen to what they have to say and being able to fund it. But I don't believe the mayor should be the chairman of the school committee.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Well, we spent the last 3 years not talking about curriculum, but about the budget. Shortfalls, budget deficits, that's basically what the entire school committee, the mayor, the city council, we spent 3 years discussing budget and forgetting about the education of the students. But I believe that the mayor should be and should continue to be the chair of the school committee, because precisely what we had been talking about, accountability. The accountability of the city lies on the shoulders of who the CFO of the city is. If something happened in one of the buildings in the schools, guess who that building belongs to? It belongs to the taxpayers of the city. If something happens to the safety of students within this city or within the schools, it rests on the shoulders of the mayor of this city. That's why the mayor belongs in the school committee. Now, you don't have to be in the school committee as this current mayor is, involved in putting the school committee into a tie to decide who the vice chair is or vice chair isn't. That was never an issue in the past. We don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We don't have to do that. It worked in the past, and we can leave it alone. The mayor is nothing but a facilitator of the meetings of the school committee. And being within the school committee, then at least the mayor can hear what's going on within the school. But the issue that this current administration or this current mayor did, he infused himself in the politics of the school committee, thus creating a sensation of division within the school committee that I advised him not to. I gave him my friendly advice that he shouldn't do that, but he did not hear that advice. I would not do that. I would not get involved in the politics of the school committee, but I believe wholeheartedly that that the mayor needs to be involved within the school committee so that we can guide this city the right way for the taxpayers of this community.
1 minute to
You
close.
see, I think that's a difference between you and I can honestly saying that you personally do not believe that the mayor should be the chairman, but you just want to say it. And that's the problem. And again, I said that. We are not in the business of scoring political points. We are in the business of serving the city. And that's exactly why I do not believe that the mayor should be the chairman of that particular committee. You know why? Because of what we saw last year. You said it. It took almost more than 7 months to come up with a vice chair. And at the end of the day, if he or she was not the chairman of that, we wouldn't have that. We should let them focus on what's going on at the school and obviously pay attention of what's going on and hold the money and tell them what we would like to see, because we have to do a partnership. It's not a me thing and that. No, it's our city. We're going to hold everyone accountable, and spend our money accordingly. The mayor should not be the chairman, in my view, of the school committee.
Time. So this next question picks up on where you all both left off. And so since you both made your comments relatively clear about it, we'll give you 90 seconds each to make your closing argument as to whether or not the chair of the school committee should come from the elected members or from outside of the elected members, i.e. the mayor. So Councilor Rodriguez, 90 seconds. Is it time for the school committee to elect the chair from within the elected members?
I believe that the system the way it is right now, it worked well, and it can come back to working well. Now remember, the chair of the school committee, the mayor is not the owner of the school committee. The person can chair the meeting because you don't have to own it. You don't have to be the owner of it. You do not have to infuse yourself within the business of those who are elected like the rest of us are elected. So you can maintain your position where you're the facilitator of the meeting, but you need to be within that because, mind you, that the school budget is almost half of the overall budget of the city. So you need to know what's going on with that budget. You need to be a part of that budget because imagine if you stayed on the outside and you let the school committee go on and decide on things on their own without your knowledge. What do you think would happen to that system? You think that 3 years worth of going back and forth was a problem? It will continue to be a worse problem because the fact is that personalities will come into play, attitudes, egos will come into play. So I think it's important for the chair to be the mayor and then let the body elect a vice chair. And that system, as far as whether or not they should be elected by the residents or appointed by the mayor, that's what your other question was, I believe it should continue to be as is. Because some of the other systems where the mayor actually appoints the school committee has not worked all that well. It takes away accountability in a sense that the voters can speak loudly what they want, who they want to represent them, and how they should be represented.
Councilor Durant.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll tell you what I will not do. I will not micromanage. What you just stated is micromanage everyone, and you said it. We have a CFO for the city of Brockton, the Chief Financial Officer for the city of Brockton. But also the school has a CFO. What we need to do, or what I will do, is to making sure that the CFO for the city, who's the boss, according to our ordinances, right, works in collaboration with the CFO of the school to talk about the money. And you said it. I did not go to college for finance. I go to college for government. So with that being said, I will not pretend to be a CFO. But as the mayor, if I'm lucky enough to become the mayor of the city, what I will do, I will hopefully hire the best qualified CFO to watch our money. The problem is not the school. The problem is not the city. The problem is a relationship in terms of like different entities working together. So now, every money that is going to the school come from City Hall, come from the mayor's office in collaboration with the CFO. Now, if you have a CFO who is doing his or her job accordingly, there'll be no reason for us to worry about it. You don't need to be the chairman of the school committee. You don't need to even be on that. Or maybe we can appoint someone to be that. That's the difference between you and I.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to public safety. There remains a strong perception that Brockton remains unsafe. Since 2017, Brockton has seen meaningful reductions in violent crimes and thefts, according to police data summarized by the Enterprise and the state's crime portal. We know that year-to-year numbers can bounce, especially homicides, but the multi-year time is moving in the right direction. The question, given the latest data, nearly 640 violent crimes per 100,000 residents in 2023 for Brockton, what is your assessment of public safety in our city? Gina, I will start with you. 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, as somebody who is actually, serving now as a correctional officer, I mean, I can see the impact of, you know, our young people getting involved in unfortunate situation. And I'm not just talking about this. I see it every single day. And that's why at the beginning, and I said, public safety is not just a law enforcement problem. Public safety is a responsibility for all of us. And that's why I said over and over again, we gotta focus in community policing. If you take a look at the crime statistic in terms of like the age range, it's from 15 and 25. These are the kids that are doing the unfortunate things. What we have to do, we have to develop a strategy whereby we can keep them busy. And that's why I said youth council at City Hall, because safety of one is safety of all. And we gotta be able to work in collaboration with law enforcement and let them know that we have to get involved in the community. It's not enough to just sit in a cruiser. It's not enough to just put a uniform. You need to get out and get to know people here. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people will not say anything if they don't trust you. What we have is a trust problems. I mean, we've been going back and forth to a lot of, you know, senior citizen centers. The biggest fear is that when they call the police, no one comes. And with that being said, that's problematic. If you call 911, especially for a safety problem, someone should come. And as your next mayor, if I'm lucky enough to be, I will making sure that the police, the fire, and the community work together for the benefits of all of us. Because I know we can only get stronger if we work together. And as somebody who's working at the jail, I know what a mistake can do.
Thank you.
A mistake can send a child to life in prison. One life is too much to lose. We'll fix that.
Thank you. Moses.
Public safety is a concern of every single person that's ever run for president in this country, every single governor, every single mayor, every single counselor, every single school committee individual, because although statistically crime is down in the city of Brockton, statistically, the perception of crime isn't. Every single person, I came from a summit in Boston today, and that's one of the first things that people say, you know, the safety in the city, the safety in the city, from a road safety summit that I went to in Boston, because the perception of crime exists. We are not so lucky to have the Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7s that Boston and some of these other communities have to help us promote the city and some of the good stuff that happens in this community. We graduated 1,000 kids last year from Brockton High School. 70% of those kids went on to four-year colleges, many of whom went on to the military to serve in a variety of other fields out there. But nobody wants to talk about that. We want to talk about the issues of crime. So we must, one, help promote this city with the positiveness that exists within this community, but at the same time put the resources in the right places. Balance what we have. We spend around $33 million a year on policing in this city, about the same amount that New Bedford does. They have 40 more police officers than we do. So we have to look at how do we put our resources in the right places? How do we provide an off-ramp for some of the kids that we're dealing with in the community? How do we put more resources into summer programs and some of the programs like the one that I run through the Cape Verdean Association to provide jobs to kids in this community, because that's what we need to do. We need to kind of think about it. It's multifaceted. It's not just a single answer, because if we had a single answer how to deal with the violence and the issues in this community, I probably wouldn't be sitting here discussing this as we speak, because we would be sitting in other places discussing this. So it's a multifaceted, and it's got to be a total effort, not just a single effort.
Okay, Gene, 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think we must address the root cause of the situation, not just the symptoms, by, you know, investing in public health. Hopefully that will reduce, you know, the crimes that we have. And we gotta be able to approach, you know, some of these problems with the mental health crisis, substance abuse, and so much more. Because at the end of the day, we have a lot of people out there who are facing mental challenges. And with that being said, it's not just calling the police. It's not just calling 911. We gotta be able to understand where people are coming from, because if somebody is having a crisis, he or she can do anything. And with that being said, we have to address the root cause of the problems, not just talking about the symptoms. We've been talking about the symptoms, not the root cause of it. As the mayor, I will challenge all of us to focus on the symptoms, not just the root cause of the problems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A 70-year-old woman from our city, Marie Lusant, has been missing since July 5th, 2025. What steps is the city taking or will take to improve tracking, investigation, and prevention of missing person cases in Brockton, especially among elderly residents and youth? Jean, we're going to start with you. 2 minutes.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine in 2025, a person that age has been lost for so many days? And you know what? I talked to the chief about this. I talked to members of law enforcement. No one has an answer. And I think it is unacceptable because no one should go missing for that long without having any explanation whatsoever to give to their family, especially when we have access to technology. So with that being said, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Moses?
Well, we have a program that started years and years ago, I think in 2007 when I was with the Harrington administration. It's called the Project Lifesaver. Project Lifesaver is a project that works basically like a GPS. It's something that looks like a watch that people with dementia or people that actually are going through Alzheimer and some of these other mental diseases that affect especially the elderly, they can actually sign on to and be able to be found within a reasonable amount of time if they actually have that system. So one of the things that we must do, we must inform the community in general about these programs. There are technology out there that can actually help us find individuals like this that actually have been found utilizing that system. So we have to make sure that we talk about it, we let people know that it exists. We have people from the Haitian community, the Cape Verdean community, that probably have never heard of this program. We have to do a little bit more in terms of advertising that. If we need to pitch in and help out with purchasing those watches, because they look just like watches, so people would wear it like they're wearing a watch. But that would allow individuals to be found at a reasonable amount of time. And it has worked in this community in the past. It's run right out of the senior center along with the police department. And I'm not exactly sure why it hasn't been talked about more in general for the other members of the community to buy into that program, but it does exist, and that's something that we need to push more. Since I know about it, I know we will talk about it.
Okay, thanks. Jean, 1 minute.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I think we need to do a better job in tracking our senior citizen. No one, should be in a situation like this after so many days and nobody knows where that person is. And it breaks my heart because my mother is 73 and my father is 76. I don't know what I would do if I go home or I got a call that my parents are missing. I don't know what I'll do with myself. And with that being said, no senior citizen should go missing in our city without having the ability to find out where they are. And I think this is something that all of us should be concerned on, and this is something that I take very seriously. And I will do my best. If there is anything out there that we can be part of to change that mindset, we will do it. Because I said it again, public safety is not just law enforcement, it is also the community. And there's a saying, if you see something, say something. And I would encourage every one of you, if you see something, say something. But the problem that some people have, when they say something, nothing is being done.
Thanks.
That will change.
Thank you, Jean. Hassan?
So along the lines of it not just being about the police, we've seen in places like Baltimore and Chicago where they've been making investments outside of policing, and you all have both alluded to it. What concrete policies or programs will you support to reduce violent crime or property crime, and how will you measure success? Councilor Rodriguez.
Well, it's like that old saying, an idle mind, if you leave an idle mind around, they'll find something to do that's not conducive to what we consider of good behavior. I think we have to occupy the minds of young people in our community. We have to occupy the minds of individuals that might have some mental health or some of the other dependency issues. We got to do something outside. We got to think outside the box. We got to invest. Just to go back, and I don't know if there's a next question coming up with regards to this, but you look at this city, we've had in the coffers of the city close to $2 million that we got through a settlement grant for opioid. It's been sitting there for the last 2 years, and we haven't really used it. And it's something that we can utilize to put it to work, creating jobs for young people, creating jobs for those that have some dependency and some other issues, to keep them engaged, because I think that's one way that we can actually combat criminality in our community. Because if you're going back to the days, again, with the Harrington administration, the last year that we were there, we created somewhere around 300 to 400 jobs for young people in this community, and we had the safest summers in this community. So if you can keep the young people busy with work, earning a living, I think it's a way that we can combat the issues of criminality in general, because nobody wants to be a criminal. Nobody's born a criminal, but it's something that you'll grow into, because sometimes when you don't have any other avenues to go, that's where you might resort to.
And what are your metrics of success with the remaining 20 seconds?
Well, we got to look at it this way. Again, let's see. We've got some experts within our system that measure the metrics that you look at. Is crime down? Is certain crimes down? Are we creating more jobs for young people? So we got to take everything into account, as well as instead of just looking at statistics for crime, but you got to look in overall, what are we producing in terms of income generating versus what the criminality is producing.
Concrete steps, metrics of success.
Absolutely. I mean, number one, we need job training for our young people. I mean, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as we speak, is facing a crisis when it's come down to the workforce, because we don't really have enough training people. We have to train our young folks, not just to work at certain places, but to work everywhere. And we also have to encourage small businesses, which is the backbone of our community, to make investment and open the door for our young people to get engaged. And that's why I said the Youth Council, whereby we will put money into a line item solely to focus on them. Meaning, if you are a musician, if you are an artist, if you play sport, if you do something that is, you like, I guess, we will give you an opportunity to expand that. And at the end of the day, at my age, I used to play soccer. I don't play soccer anymore. So how do we keep our young kids, to keep on playing soccer? How do we keep our kids to keep on playing music? So I think we need to get them engaged. Whatever we have to do, we gotta be able to reach them out. And of course, how do we change the nightlife in our city? Because at the end of the day, there's nothing for our young people to do in our city. And with that being said, if you want them to stay busy, if you want them to go in out there, to shift their mind whereby they don't have to think about certain things, I think that's what we have to do. We have to invest in job training, whereby they will have jobs that will not only pay them, but pay them enough to make investment on their own. And with that being said, we will, determine based on how many kids are working, that's number one, where they are working, what they are doing, what is the outcome. I think that will be the metric to determine whether or not the program is successful. But the city on itself cannot do it. It's a public-private partnership in collaboration, because the business will make the investment, the public will benefit from it, and our young people will work together. So the outcome of what they do in regard to their job training will determine how well we are doing with this. Thank you.
1 minute.
Well, I think we said it all. I mean, the fact is that, we got to keep our young involved in activities that will kind of deter them from getting involved in criminal activities. You don't have to be an Einstein to figure this stuff out. The idea is that we have to go after resources. We cannot continue. It's easy to say we want to create jobs, we want to build new stadiums, we want to build new fields without the resources. We got to go after resources, grow our own resources, because we cannot just rely on handouts from the state on a regular basis, but grow our resources, develop the properties that we need to develop, work within the limitations that we have to make sure we have the resources to provide those resources that are needed to prevent those issues from becoming a problem.
Traffic safety. Brockton has a lot of car crashes that result in property damage and serious injury, sometimes even death. How will your administration coordinate between the police and the Traffic Commission to proactively reduce this risk? Councilor Rodriguez, 2 minutes.
Well, let's call it for what it is. Currently, we have zero traffic enforcement in the city. Calling it for what it is. I think we have 2 dedicated traffic enforcers in the city, and I believe one is out and the other one is retiring. So in reality, we have 0 traffic dedicated individuals in the city. And it's interesting that this question came up because I actually went to Boston today to, participate in a summit on road safety. And the city of Beverly, the city of Beverly, I don't even know if it's a city, but it's Beverly, the chief of police was there making a presentation, and his department has 3 dedicated traffic enforcement individuals, a sergeant and 2 patrolmen. Now, here's a city of 106,000 people with 0 traffic enforcement. Again, you don't have to be a Mensa student or Einstein to figure out if there's nobody watching the roads and there's no signs of anybody enforcing traffic, you're going to have some traffic, fatalities and some issues that we have in the community. Luckily, we have some new recruits coming in. It's my dying wish that some of these individuals that we actually get to come into the police department will be put. And again, once I'm elected mayor of this city, I will make sure that traffic enforcement in the city, because traffic enforcement is the #1 crime preventing method that is out there provenly that actually works. Because when you make a traffic stop, you find guns, you find drugs, you find some of the other things that you find within that traffic stop. So if we invest in traffic in this community, we can make Brockton a safer city for everybody.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it, because this is something that I've been saying since 2017. Because as I'm knocking on doors, talking to the resident, their #1 concern is traffic enforcement, because we are not doing it, and you said it on the record. So for me, I think it is unacceptable for a city like ours not having enough people on the street enforcing traffic. And I'll tell you something that even simple. Have you ever taken a look at your car insurance and see how much money we are paying? That's part of the problem that we are having in the city, because they know that we don't enforce traffic. Here's what I'll do. Day 1, I will making sure that we have leadership at the police department that focus on the job, not politics. I will making sure that our officers out there, not just sitting in a cruiser, but going out there, do their job. Because at the end of the day, if we are not enforcing traffic, if we are not going after people that are doing 65, 70 on our local street, what are we here for? And if you take a look at the council meetings, I've been talking about enforcing traffic almost every occasion that I have. So I am so glad you asked this question. And as some of you know, and I met you at your door, I made that promise to you that we will enforce traffic. I'm not just talking about it. Take a look at my literature. Go back and take a look at what I give you. On the back of it, I spell it out in terms of like how we're gonna do it. So it's not just traffic enforcement, it's a leadership problem. And we will have leadership at the Brockton Police Department that will work for the people, not against the people. Because at the end of the day, it is our job to making sure that every resident is protected and no one get hurt because somebody doesn't know how to drive.
1 minute.
Well, again, we cannot make soup out of rocks. We have to have the human beings in place in order for us to have it in the right places to do their job. That's why my plan is to basically, while we're still waiting for the numbers in the police department to grow, my plan is to basically go after some state resources that we have out there to help us enforce some of the traffic issues that we have in the community, and that's something that I will do day 1 once elected mayor in this city.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to homelessness. Councilor Rodriguez supports Brockton's anti-camping and loitering ordinances, while Councilor Darren Court warns that punitive measures without proper programs only deepen the crisis. Both of you say compassion matters, but what's the first concrete action you will take in your first 100 days as mayor to reduce visible homelessness downtown without criminalizing poverty? Start with you, Gene. 2 minutes.
Absolutely. I mean, the situation with the homeless unhoused population, obviously, it's unfortunate. And I think that we all can agree that, no one should be living on the street. However, there are multiple reasons why somebody is on the street. Like I stated before, mental challenges, substance abuse, and if not, unhoused. We have all kind of people on the street. Here's what I will do as your next mayor. I will work in collaboration, or I will continue to work in collaboration with different organizations and the state to see how we can come up with a solution. Like we just did somewhat with Father Bills. We were able to move Father Bills from downtown Brockton and move them somewhere else, whereby that facility, if some of you have not visited them yet, take a look at it. It's top-notch. There's a hospital there. They have services there whereby people can actually go, not just as a homeless, but as somebody who can actually have access. Those that are facing mental health challenge, we will work in collaboration with the state hospital to help them out. Those that are facing substance abuse problems, we will work in collaboration with different clinics to see how we can help them. And those that are facing unhoused problems, we will work in collaboration with the state to see how we can serve them. But if somebody is a vet and they are living on the street, we will work in collaboration with the VA to remove them. We must approach the situation with a heart, not with the criminal charges. We must approach the situation with open mind, not to go after these people and put them in jail. I will not support any law, any ordinance that will criminalize somebody solely for being homeless, because that's not the American way, and that's not what we do in America. In America, we help people, we don't destroy people.
Well, here's some facts. We passed the homeless ordinance last January, and to date, we have not charged anybody criminally. We have not arrested anybody for being homeless. What some of us are against is the behavior of some of the homeless folks that we have in this community. Here's another fact. We know that over 60% of the homeless that we have in the city of Brockton are not from Brockton. They come from community as far away as Texas, from Florida, from Connecticut, from all over South Shore. We also have some agencies in the community that take individuals from Boston, Worcester, Springfield, North Shore, South Shore, into programs here in the city, and then they get discharged to the streets after their treatment. Those individuals have no ties to this community, so they become homeless in the street. The councilor talked about the new facilities for Father Bills. It's interesting, it's a beautiful facility, but you know what it did for the homeless in the downtown area? Zero. Because you know what? They're not going after the people who are under bridge. Those individuals that are under the bridge, some of them are choosing to be on the streets. It's not because they're homeless, because their circumstances got them on the streets. They're on the streets because they either have some mental issues, some addiction issues, or they're choosing to be in the streets because they don't want to abide by the rules and regs of some of the shelters that we have. So one of the things that I did when I was mayor for the 7 months that I served as mayor is I convened a meeting with all the town managers around the city of Brockton for us to discuss this issue, because homelessness, although it's a Brockton problem, it's not a Brockton issue. Only 40% of the people who are homeless in Brockton are our people. And if we only had those 40%, we could take care of our own 40%. So what we need to do is go back to what existed, and I left it there with the incoming administration to continue that discussion. Unfortunately, COVID came and everything fell apart. But the idea was for some of these other communities to kind of partake in helping us deal with the homeless issues, since those homeless individuals come from some of those communities as well. It's not fair for the taxpayers of Brockton to endure the cost of taking care of other people's homeless. Okay. I want to be senseless. I don't want to be senseless. I want to be, heartful in the sense, but my duty as a mayor is to take care of Brocktonians, and that's what I intend to do.
Gene, right?
Yes, I mean, I said it. The homeless situation is not a local problem. It's not a state problem. It's a nationwide problem. Our approach should be smart, not just wishful thinking. And you said something last debate. You said doing something is better than nothing. The reason why we have not been able to criminalize the homeless people is because that law is illegal. And I said that it would be a liability to our city to arrest somebody on the street solely because they are homeless. You and I know that. And what I said to you is that there are people on the street that are facing mental problems. We have to approach that differently. There are people on the street that are facing substance abuse. You said that. You said there are people under the bridge that are not there. So if somebody is not mentally present, it's not going to be able to convince them to go somewhere. We must be able to approach this on an individual approach, meaning each case is unique. And how do we move from there? As the mayor, I will work in collaboration with the state and different organizations to come up with a solution for the homeless situation. I cannot solve it, but I will be able to start what might be able to change it. That's what I will do.
Thank you, Gene.
We're almost there. Given that the city's revenue forecast shows only modest growth in the general fund, as our next mayor, what specific steps would you take to align service and budget demands, especially in our schools, public safety, infrastructure, and how will you ensure that the limited revenue growth doesn't disproportionately impact the neighborhoods and the communities that are already struggling with aging infrastructure and under-resourced school? Councilor Rodriguez.
Well, last year we had a minute growth, and you guys are killing me here because my bladder is about to burst. But anyways, last year we had a minute growth in this city. We have some real potential for growth in this community. We have 3 properties that, if developed and developed properly, it should be able to help our growth to a point where we can basically endure a lot of the changes that are coming down the pipeline. We have the fairgrounds, we have the CSX properties here on the west side, and we have the Spark Street area there that needs to be redeveloped. There are some lookers that are interested in investing in this community. But again, we got to go back and solve that water problem, because if we don't have that water issue resolved, we will not going to be allowed to develop some of these properties that we have. So that's how I think it all comes back and it all ties in to development in this community. And that's what we must do in order to take the pressures off. The state can help us so much when it comes to funding, but it's up to us to come up with the necessary tools to make sure that we put that in place to develop the city as it needs to be done.
I mean, if you take a look at some of the biggest tax-paying business in our community, number one is the Boston Medical Health System. So with that being said, take over a good team right now. And of course, Columbia guys. So at the end of the day, we need more business in our community. And in order for us to bring more business, we have to fix our safety issue. Because at the end of the day, no one will come downtown Brockton as we speak and put millions of dollars in development without knowing that they will get their money back. And that's one of the reasons we need those moms and pops businesses. And it doesn't take a couple million, it's probably gonna take a couple thousand. But if we start with this, that could be a motivation for us to generate revenue, whereby to balance the budget. And we have to be fiscally responsible, because we cannot keep on spending over and over again. And you said that. The saying was, I'll help you out, it's the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expect something different. Unless we change downtown, unless we change our perception in regard to the business downtown, nobody will come down there and put money. And to justify my point, recently, the beer company, they left because they were losing business. Now, how do you motivate somebody else to come down here and invest? I got a couple friends who have a lot of money. They would like to come downtown Brockton. Their biggest concern is where people gonna come from to buy food, because they assume downtown is not safe. It's a valid concern, and I think you and I know that, because somebody will not go downtown Brockton, put millions of dollars just for fun. It's not gonna happen. We must change that.
Closing out? No, overall close.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Thank you.
before we go to the closing statements, Rasan, you want to have anything to say, last minute?
I just want to thank both of these candidates for engaging in this debate and sharing with the residents of Brockton what your views and platforms are. There's so many good things that can happen in the city of Brockton. You're both clearly very proud. And let's get to Tuesday strong. Make sure you get all your people out and turn out on Election Day.
Thank you. Jean, closing, 1 minute.
I started it.
Yeah.
You want me to close it?
Yes?
Okay, excellent. Well, I would
1
like to
minute.
thank you guys for taking the time to put this together. And I would like to thank my opponent for taking the time to be here. And of course, those of you who are in the audience and you who are watching at home. Since day one, my commitment has been the city of Brockton, and that will not change. And the city of Brockton needs a mayor who listens, who lead with integrity, and represent everyone. I am looking at you as I'm talking to you. I will fight for you the same way that I will fight for my family. I will invest in quality education. I will enforce traffic every corner in the city to making sure that when you go out there to do your business, nobody can just drive by and hit you and go home. It is an honor for me to be part of the Brockton family. It will be an honor when I become the next mayor of Brockton. And I could not be more proud than having the Christos family just endorse my campaign. I have been endorsed by people that are cleaning the hospital, that are cleaning the street, that are cleaning the library, that are cleaning the jail, and who are working in the jail. Because you know why? They know that I'm a common man. From being a boss boy, went to Massasoit, went to Suffolk University, working for a variety of politicians, here I am, hoping to become your next mayor. I don't take this lightly. I take this very seriously. What you need a mayor with integrity, somebody you can trust with a capital T. And I said that over and over again. I want to be a mayor for everyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you believe in. As long as you are a resident in the city, I will fight for you.
Thank you.
I hope I can count on your vote on November 4th. If you forgot everything that I just said, remember, I am number 1 on the ballot and the longest name on the ballot. Thank you.
I don't have the longest name on the ballot, but I'm on the ballot as well. Well, thank you folks for hosting this, even though it went a little longer than the 2 bottles of water that we had to drink here. It's an honor for me to be sitting here talking to the folks both here and at home. This is a young man who came from Africa, from the continent of Africa, and today I'm standing here on this stage proud to call myself a Brocktonian, proud of the fact that I came from this system, this school system that made me who I am today. Throughout this campaign, we've heard rhetoric of individuals talking about the good things that we need to do. Who does not want great schools, great roads, safe roads, safety? The things that you think that you want for your families is exactly what everybody else wants. But the question comes back to, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I am someone who's dedicated my entire life to service. I served this country wearing the uniform of the United States Navy. I served on various boards and commissions throughout this city. I continue to serve at the Cape Verdean Association on a daily basis to take care of the folks from this community. I have the right temperament. I have the experience. I am someone who's a taxpayer, a homeowner, a family member, somebody that truly has invested in this community and will continue to invest in this community. It's not by accident that I've been endorsed by the Brockton Workers Union, the Brockton Police Department, the Brockton Fire Department, the entire labor unions in Southeastern Mass, because they see me as somebody that they can trust. They see me as somebody who can stand by his word. They see me as somebody who says, when I'm with you, I am with you. So I count on your support on November 4th. My name is not the longest on the ballot, but it is in the ballot. And please cast your vote for the future of this city to someone who's able to grab the reins of this city and move it forward. So thank you for being here. God bless you all. God bless the city of Brockton.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates for debating tonight. And thank you all for listening. On November 4th, please go out and vote, because on November 5th, you're going to wake up to history being made in Brockton. Thank you all, and good night.
Good night.